We're about to find out.
Yeah, all sorts of exciting things in this game. I'm looking towards this Aurelion Sol. Maybe he can get a lot of work done. We'll see how these PCS players fare with him. And again, SEM9 won this last time round, so Hellpigs really won't want to be going down 0-2 against them, as Tide is very aggressively in this jungle already on the Veigar.
Is the first strike picked up here for the ASOL? There's a few different keystones normally picked up by ASOL, so the kind of common ones that people go for lately is Comet, taken in kind of difficult matchups where you want to poke them out or you can't really survive without it. So stuff like the Syndra, Comet's very good against, versus like the Assassin matchups, you're then looking for the Spellbook, gives you a lot of defensive stats, and just those combat summoners. But if you get kind of a freer matchup where you're just looking to scale, First Strike is certainly the choice. And it's also First Strike picked up by Tide on the Veigar as well.
Yeah, so both these AP mages are going First Strike, obviously in differing lanes, but this is just so interesting. I can't believe Tide has been put onto the Veigar. We've just got a Sivir mid. It's a real different take on drafting.
It certainly is. I don't think we've seen anything like this before. I think it's always interesting when you put someone who's really good on ADCs on one of these mage bots, because it feels like while it's good for the draft advantage, a lot of the time it's just not worth it because they're honestly just not that good at the mages. So we'll have to see how good is Tide on the Veigar. I don't think he's the most difficult mage of all time, but there's certainly some skill expression, particularly with your E positioning and timing. Keras, though, did go for the cleanse, also has the cull, so really banking on the scaling as a side of S9. And Maokai being back. I mean, we haven't seen Maokai that much lately. We've seen it picked here and there. I do think it's a pretty good game for it. Can just kind of poke down. There's not a whole lot of sustain here other than the, maybe lifesteal on the Sivir. So probably a pretty big DPS game here for Maokai.
Yeah, and you have to see what build he goes for as well. Does have the multiple options. With the phase rush especially, doesn't really tell you much because that could be both the AP or the sort of tankier build.
I think he will go the AP build. I guess I'm not sure, but I think something like Liandry's Demonic is really good for dealing with Sion. Same time, though, it might depend a little bit what Calumny is building too. The kind of common mythics on ASOL are either Liandry's or the Rod of Ages, depending on, do you want more scaling, do you want more early game, do you want more tankiness, do you want more damage? Those are all the kind of questions that you're sort of asking of that item. And Taco is spotted out on the red. It's pretty hard, I think, for Fear to get help. He has the Renekton priority, but mid definitely won't be able to. And actually does just back off it, decides it's going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, perhaps a bit too risky. Is now looking towards Relia, and we have seen Relia get solo killed a fair amount of times, but he does do a good job there of realizing he's a bit weak through that gank and backs out just to get some vision and protect himself. But tell me a little bit about the ASOL. What do you reckon he's got to do in these team fights as we get to the later stage of the game? Or even perhaps like when dragons start spawning. What do you think is like his way of playing? Because obviously I feel like it's kind of hard to just W in and unleash, because obviously you do have that Veigar cage, Rakan knock up an ult, and I mean if you get Lee Sin kicked into the middle of a team prior to having any sort of defenses, you will pretty much just get bursted down. Hold up, Relia is getting engaged on, will get away. Actually, a lot of damage returned onto Taco, but ultimately we'll have to back. But anyway, what do you reckon there?
Okay, so the ASOL, I think that, especially if you go to Liandry's build, we'll see what he goes for here, but you do enough damage, especially when you get lots of stacks of Stardust, that you actually just do so much with your E and your R that sometimes you don't even need to W just because you're outputting so much damage with the AoE. I think most ways to kind of ASOL plays a team fight is you're looking for, again, like group fight, get a lot of people stacked up in your E and your R, and then kind of use W forward once CC has already been committed, or just when people are getting low. It's kind of more like a cleanup and chase tool as opposed to just something that is full DPS. But yeah, just with the E and the R, you can get so much value. The E, which kind of pulls people in, then really sets up for the R AoE. And if you can get enough stacks, I think having the Skies Descend, which is his kind of super ult here, for all the late game dragon fights is really, really important. It's just so much guaranteed damage with that shockwave that comes out after. He's doing a good job of just stacking up in mid. That's why I'm kind of worried about this Sivir. It feels like ASOL's biggest weakness is kind of early game skirmishing as well as the late phase, and Sivir just kind of trades that evenly. And I'm not sure Sivir can actually deal a lot of damage just because she's so short range up against the ASOL, right? It does feel like a pretty difficult champ to teamfight against. Even if Sivir is kind of known for really good scaling, I don't think it's the easiest comp, mainly because of the ASOL to deal damage into. Top trades. Looks like they're kind of going the way of Taco, but the wave is built here for Relia. Could be in trouble though. I mean, Taco's very, very tanky.
Yeah, we do see Fia getting engaged on here. He will get extremely low. Blast Cone is there to save him, but an Ignite will be committed by IC8. But Ignite for Flash, you do like that trade. It'll make Fia feel a lot more vulnerable against the Lee Sin in the jungle.
So far, I feel like Taco's on the Lee has had a real tough time trying to find stuff to work because he just doesn't really have lanes that are super easy to gank, right? There's a Scion Renekton, but Renekton's obviously very tanky, and also it's just a matchup that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Bot feels difficult because of Thresh and Zion. Mid certainly has no gank set up with Sivir, so the Lee has really just been picked to kind of get through the early game. At the same time, does get outscaled very hard. You see Fia already kind of building up a CS lead in the jungle, just basically off clearing. Even the fact that he doesn't have any prior can still manage to get some of these camps here, and enough that he's got himself a lead.
Yeah, and as you said, Lee Sin hasn't found too much. He has gotten a couple of summoners, but for that to really matter, you need to then go back to that lane and sort of exploit that cooldown to try and pick up some gold for your team. But since happening, Rally has just stayed equal in that top lane, and Fia got himself a Giant's Belt and will be happy enough just clearing his jungle bit by bit.
I wonder, will there be any pressure put on the map here by Taco? So the Dragon hasn't been started up, which is, I guess, just because of the bot prior being too much. It is pretty hard to start when you've got the Veigar on that bot lane. Sort of weird, though, to let ASOL just kind of go through the early game uncontested. Right now, it's just a slight CS lead for Hong2, and it's going to close up even more here. So, I mean, Sivir, again, doesn't scale bad. I just kind of question if they really got what they wanted out of what they did in draft. Tide also investing in the full scaling, so he's going for the Tier and the Rod of Ages. I think Calumnia is actually going for the Liandry's here, has got the 2 amp tomes, as well as the mana crystals. So respecting just the insane amount of health that can come through from the side of Hellpigs. And it is definitely more damage going to Liandry's, as long as you feel like you're not going to take too much back. That's when you'd like to go for the Rod of Ages. So I really like Calumnia's setup here. He's got a ton of damage, got the first strike scaling.
And I think against Sivir, you're not too worried about taking too much damage. I think he will be fairly fine to play out the lane, and then during team fights, I mean, it more depends on his positioning, because either build, I feel like you're pretty much going to get one shot regardless, as a hook is landed here by Wei, and Tide will flash away. He doesn't have teleport, importantly, to get back to lane. Curious use of the Feather Storm there. Maybe thought he was a bit closer so he could land that route.
I think YJY kind of misexecuted it. Felt like the Lantern wasn't used in the correct location. It's still a nice win. You get Tide's Flash. Can you do anything off it, though? Probably not. You're not really expecting much here, though, as the side of S9. You really just want to kind of scale through to one item and then start to look for stuff. Herald will go the way of Hellpigs. Ooh, actually
looking for a dive. Nature's Graft is used, but very nice use of that cage there by Veigar, sort of denying anything for now. IC8 will land a nice knock up to Kyrez as Flash is used. Calumnia down here looking like he might pick up a double potentially, but not quite yet. He will just survive as Kyrez. Oh my goodness. Everyone here on the side of S9 on 1 HP for now. Do have to be careful.
The health bars go very low. Calumnia did miss the ult, and I think it actually might end up bad here. A lot of plates lost mid, which is probably not really worth it. ASOL really needs to keep this tower alive. And if it actually goes down here, it's such a massive win for Hellpigs. I think it will. This is a real problem here for the side of S9. The fact your mid tower just drops this early in the game. Obviously, Sivir isn't the best user of this priority, but the map is now so open so early. Let's take a look at what happened here. So I think the ult coming through here was pretty nicely played initially from Hellpigs. I honestly think the Veigar cage, you kind of have to use it. At the same time, it feels like you're kind of committing to dying later on. There isn't really a way to get out. Calumnia, though, really misexecutes, misses both the R and then also E placement isn't the best. So then he's just kind of stuck dealing damage off the back end, but takes so much in return, which means he can't ever go back mid. And as a result, mid tower falls. Hong2 is so accelerated, goes for the shield bow instead of the Kraken, which is really, I don't even think I've ever seen a shield bow Sivir.
No, me neither, but we have to be careful here. Rally looking like he will be getting dove. Dominus is available. He does use it, is kicked, gets very low, and is just taken down. So well executed dive there by Taco and Taco.
It will be Dragon traded back on the other side of the map. It's only the first one, though, and the Dragon win condition starting up kind of late here. It's going to be a while. And I think that it was kind of strange that Relia was so low on health. I think maybe could have popped the Dominus early and just try and get enough Fury to lifesteal off the wave. Also is going for the Bork. Kind of makes sense for us as Scion. At the same time, a Renekton going Bork from behind does feel very, very bad. Hellpigs, they're starting to pick up this gold lead, and a lot of it feels like it's just off the back of S9's poor individual play, right? Top taking a lot of damage for free, and mid as well, roaming on a really poor timing.
Yeah, YJY engaged on here, will be stuck in the box, doesn't have flash, misses hook as well, and it looks like he will go down to Veigar, but Calumnia joins in. Alt will just catch Tide there on the edge, but has to flash away as there's 4 members come down from Hellpig, so just another free pickup there.
I'm surprised Calumnia is roaming around the map so much. I don't think this is really what Aurelion Sol wants to do. Obviously, you can roam if necessary, but I think the fact that he's falling behind on stacks and farm and now given over the tower mid is a really bad state for the Aurelion Sol to be in.
I was going to ask, I did catch just before, 86 stacks so far of that Stardust for Aurelion Sol. How was that kind of at the... I mean, that was about 2 minutes ago or a minute ago, but...
It's fairly decent. I think early game, if you can get 10 per minute, that's pretty much fine. Although in a lane where it was completely free, I think could have more, especially if you're going Leandries, because you get more AP earlier, so it makes it a bit easier just to stack off the waves. As the game goes on, though, you kind of find yourself able to do camps, picking up more kills, can kind of begin to accelerate further. I'm still really curious why Hong2 went for the shield bow. It kind of suggests that he doesn't want to build BT later on, or maybe he just wants both. But I think there isn't actually a ton of threat onto him in team fights. It's mainly the ASOL, but I think ASOL will be kind of hitting the front line for most of it. They're kind of interesting. Relia's in big trouble, though. It's started to fall very far behind. Does not have the Borg. It's looking like he's actually going to get dived again. Dominus is available.
Yeah, Dominus available. We'll use it early to gather extra health and Fury. Makes this a little bit harder, but... Man, he does just catch the kick and will go down. Calumnia is teleporting in here, as well as Fia coming in. Is getting a lot of damage done onto Taco. Will put down that black hole as Taco is diving Fia. Nature's Grasp will lock him just under tower. He'll be going down as Thresh lands the hook here onto Taco. Looks like Calumnia will pick up one for himself. So good answer here by S9, but Relia does seem to just be consistently dying by himself up in this top lane.
While it is kind of a decent outcome for S9, they're trying to trade something back here. I think the mid tower is very, very low once again. Would love to see the health on this. Can't quite tell, but it took a lot of damage there. Hong2 again, just continuing to push mid. Calumnia roams once more, and it is punished. Take a look at the replays. So I think Relia this time at least played the start a bit better, but I think probably just should have looked to Q a bit earlier, right? I think here, rather than flashing in, just prop the Q right now. Instead, tries to do something, does not work out. Calumnia, I think, does not quite have the ult here, so is missing a little bit of that damage. And the ASOL E executes when you get low HP, but just not enough damage, right? Doesn't have the Leandries, and what is a fairly late timing is actually causing him to kind of just spend so much time clearing this. Meanwhile, Hong2 was knocking on that mid tower, and you can see on the map, it's actually very, very low. Yeah,
and look at turret plates. That right there is 10 plates to 2. So a massive amount of gold and just turret damage going on the side of Hellpigs. I believe when we saw the gold stats just before, Kyrgios was still first in the game, but the next 4 were everyone except Rakan on the side of Hellpigs. So again, we see more priority put up to this top lane, and turret will go down. So 2 turrets to 0 so far, and you have to be really worried about this top lane at the moment.
This makes me really wonder, like, what was the purpose of this blind pick Renekton? It doesn't feel like it really fits in your team at all, to be honest. I think there were much better picks that you could have gone for. It's now just, yeah, kind of that gank setup champion that set up no ganks. YJY, he's engaged on. Nothing really comes of it, though.
Yeah, Flash traded for that quickness, so Aurelion Sol's big ult is available. It's just happy getting some stacks. It will come out, lands onto Taco. That's a shutdown for Calumnia. He's now Wing forward again. Hong2, will he be able to escape? And he will, just at the end there, uses Flash. But that is so much damage already coming out for Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, nicely played there by Calumnia. I think that's really, really important for him that he can pick up that kill. fight goes on bot.
Nice flay there. Makes IC8 take a lot more damage that he wouldn't want to have taken. Honestly, both these bot laners quite low. Kira's fairly healthy for now, but we'll see them just back away.
I think this dragon can be grabbed here by S9. I think that's a really good usage of the Sky's Descent by Calumnia. I feel like you're always using it either at a dragon fight or to secure a dragon in some way, right? You don't want to just use it randomly, but here it kind of knows that this is a good enough situation. If he does use it, things will come of it. And just so much damage coming out from the E and R. Taco just dies so quick. And then Hong2 as well, you know, trying to sprint away, but as we said before, Asol, one of the best champs at chasing in the game right now. So much damage, forces out the flash from him as well. Is going the Rylai second, so pretty normal from Calumnia in terms of the build. Looks really good against the short range HP stacking compositions. I'm a big fan of the itemization and runes here. Looks like Herald will be picked up by the side of Hellpigs. They have a 2.5k gold lead, but they are down 2 dragons. I think normally I would actually be kind of worried about Hellpigs in this situation, but the one nice thing they have going for them is the Scion.
A lot of damage coming out here onto IC8. Quickness will be used. Does go away. Gale Force also used by Kyrres, as well as he does get ignited. He's now stuck in this cage. Can he find a way out? Possibly. Oh, nice flash by Tide, and he will take Kyrres down. So fairly well played from both of them, but Kyrres wasn't able to win out in a 3v1. As we see Taco initiating onto Calumnia. The Sky's Descent does come out, and Taco, root in position, does go down now. Hong2 will run away.
Doesn't have flash this time.
Yeah, W following him. He's taking a lot of damage, but will just get away using that ult.
Yeah, the W did run out there. Couldn't quite cover enough distance, but Calumnia is getting all the kills. And the game now has been paused, but yeah, I think Hellpigs, they kind of... I'm not feeling too good about their position, right? The Sivir hasn't really found anything off her lead. The lead's fallen behind. At least Tide on the Vega is strong, though, and you've got Taku on the Scion, who's extremely strong. It feels like Relia is almost a non-factor in this game. It's going to Bork and now has a Dirk, so really playing for a kind of 1v1 focused build, but it's never going to do much in the Scion. Instead, perhaps wants to just flash W someone in the team fight and look to one-shot them. It could even just be the kind of thing where, you know, if you're useless but you can take someone down with you, I mean, that honestly could be quite good.
Yeah, I guess, but like you have to feel like, why not just pick the Gnar? Like if you're blind pick, and I mean, Renekton does often get blinded, but you just, the Gnar has seen so much success as a blind or as an answer, you feel like it's just the better option. It would have had a fine matchup into Scion, perhaps negated the Scion pick entirely even, but I don't know, I'm just sort of, I guess we haven't seen Relia play many tanks at all. But just feel like the Gnar would have fit better here.
The Renekton is kind of out of nowhere. I feel like the Renekton priority in the PCS has been really weird. Like I think it's actually a decent counter pick, but it's so surprising to see it blind pick because it feels like there are so many options, right? They even had 2 top lane bans and they've still ended up this far behind. Fortunately though, Calumnia on his team is continuing to just farm up a Storm. Is probably going to complete the Rylai's here, I'd imagine. Yeah, 2 items completed, 17 minutes in, so it's really strong.
214 Stardust now.
Yeah, so definitely starting to accelerate in that. And I think once you get around 300 stacks, that's when you're starting to hit kind of 1v9 potential as the Asol.
So very close to that now already. And I mean, it feels very early in the game to have that amount of stacks. And honestly, he's coming up on his 3rd item probably pretty soon, and he's going to be a real lot to deal with.
It is going to be, I think, up to Tide and Taco to kind of make sure that they have the lockdown for this Asol. I think if you just let Calumnia free hit, it's going to be really tough. But I'm really excited to see the team fights coming out. It kind of is what Asol is now known for, right? Went from being a roaming champion pre-rework to now just kind of a late game scaling control mage. It's very different, but it's still very strong. Ooh.
Yeah, ICA interestingly goes in. Quickness will be used, but he has gotten extremely low. And now there is a bit of a chase, but nothing will come of it. And interesting decision to jump in there. Cost him his ult and flash.
Yeah, I wonder why he felt confident engaging that, but is forced away. Herald is completely denied, although it did take the bot tier 1. No flash on Rakan for next fight, I think, is pretty big. Relia actually finds himself a tower in the side lane, so he can at least get a little bit of gold back onto himself.
Yeah, and he might be able to even win out on this 1v1 for now. Just with that Blade of the Ruined King will do so much damage to Scion.
It's kind of ridiculous how much damage just a Bork can do. 2 minutes on the drag, though. I think Hellpigs really do need to contest. Are they scaled enough? I mean, they've got the Rod of Ages on the Veigar. Sion's looking strong. Hong, too, though, is weird because he got so much gold early, but he doesn't really feel that strong, right? Just has the shield bow. Doesn't even have second item here, so I think they should contest. Whether or not they actually win, though, I'm not sure. Calumnia now has the Skies descend once again. So perfect for this next dragon fight. It's going to be extremely strong.
Yeah, and Tide has finished his Archangels, not yet upgraded into that Ceres, which I think is quite important, especially coming up. Maybe he can get it done in 1 minute, but 50 stacks does take a little bit of time, so...
Looks like we will be grouping on this mid wave. It's just a minute away, and I think Relia might just be stuck in side lane, at least for a little bit. It's certainly not as impactful as Taco on the Sion. And even though Calumnia has a lot of damage here, he doesn't have a Void Staff. You know, it's very early into the game still. Doesn't have the Void Staff up against the Maw and the Jack Show, so it is pretty difficult for him to actually deal with those tankier members. Baron has started up here, and Hong too, he has a Navori. This is spotted out by the Sapling, so nice there from Thea. Has the Demonic as well.
Yeah, really, you get a lot of sort of pressure around the map with this Maokai. Even though the Saplings were nerfed, just being able to have them sit in a bush and around any objective and know when it's being taken, it really does help you with this map control, as priority for the Dragon is in favor of Hellpigs.
Yeah, S9, they're trying to find a way in. It is difficult, though. They don't really have a member to face check.
Yeah, Shirelles is used, and Relia is still very far away. However, he is looking for a flank here on the bottom side of the map.
Okay, Engage comes out.
Yeah, only Taco hit. Fia taken fairly low. Relia has popped Dominus, so they do have to be careful here. Hong2 is engaged on. Will get stunned up. A 3-man knockup from the Sky's Descents. Taco's trying to take out Calumnia. Calumnia W's into that Scion queue and just gets destroyed as we see 3 people focusing on this Jack Show Taco. Can they get him down? It doesn't seem so. Hook will land. Man, Taco picks up Aurelia in the side there.
I really want to see what even happened in this team fight. I feel like it started out quite well for S9. They had a really great flank, but Calumnia somehow dies just by getting so close to Tide that he was caged and then ulted immediately after. I also think Tide must have done an absurd amount of damage in this fight. And will pick up the Dragon after. So I think that's kind of the win that Hellpigs needed, kind of shut down this Dragon win condition for S9. And while this scaling isn't like absurdly great, it's still very competitive, right? I think the fact like Veigar Sivir is very good scaling. I think it's pretty on par with the ASOL Zarya. Really will just come down to teamfight execution, which I think is exactly what Hellpigs want, given they just proved they can execute teamfights much better. Now, this started off with the disengage from S9 and then the re-engage. Relia, he has a great flank. So this is all looking really good. Especially, I think, even the Skies Descent were pretty good here. We've got the E already down. Maybe E was used a bit too early, so it doesn't have all that follow-up damage, but you still get the massive knock-up. Hong2, I think, also just died really early. I think keep your eyes on Calumnia. I'm not really sure. Okay, so he got kicked into the team, and then has the opportunity to W away, but instead W's in. Your main DPS to just go down, because now you just don't really have any other damage other than carriers, and he's just being focused down. Tied as well with the cage, just buys so much time for his team in this fight. And I really got to question Calumnia, right? He got so fed here, and then it's just taken out. Is also now going for the Seraphs, or for the Archangels, but I think honestly he should probably go for a Void. There's so much magic resist already, and he's the one that needs to deal with that front line.
Definitely agree with you, and LDR also is now getting picked up soon by Keres, but in that fight, I have to say, Keres coming from that support, I don't know if you noticed, but he was dodging away from just so much skill shots. This guy really is a fantastic AD carry on his second game in the PCS. Looks like Baron will be started here by Hellpigs.
Yeah.
Hasn't been spotted yet, but Relia kind of in the area, and no real DPS is being done to it.
They could just do it as a two-man.
Oh, Taco loses half his health to the Prowler's Claw empowered W there by Relia.
Ooh,
they do know Nature's Grasp will be used. Does land onto 3 people. Gets really far in there with the Twisted Advance. It's getting extremely low. Will just go down, but are they able to stop this Baron? Calumnia getting a lot done on this bottom side. He is teleporting in now, though. You have to be careful. He doesn't have the upgraded ultimate yet.
I think S9 can force them off. It's a good place for ASOL to fight in.
Yeah, it does get a hook land onto Taco. YJ will be eliminated. You have to be careful of Lee Sin up the top here as Calumnia does W away. They pick up Renekton, but this is... Fia will almost be spawning, and there's quite low health bars and a lot of damage still alive on S9. So if they can play it well enough, Taco getting very low here. Baron at 7k HP. What will happen? Box will be used, as does Aurelion Sol's ult. Taco getting low in the pit on this Baron, but it looks like Hellpigs will just claim this Baron. Will there be a fight afterwards? Taco does go down, so nice pick up there, getting rid of one of the Barons early.
Yeah, can they still fight though? I don't think they can. They're going to be forced away. Another really big win there for Hellpigs, and I think it was a little bit unlucky the way that started for Fia. Got dragged pretty far with that twisted advance into the team fight, but again, I think Calumnia just doesn't really have the damage. He doesn't have this Void Staff, so it takes so long to deal with the tanks. And also, I think perhaps waited on the R just a bit too long. We'll have the Skies the same for the next fight, though.
Yeah, and 335 stacks now for this Aurelion Sol, so is ramping up continually, and it just becomes more and more scary as the game progresses. I feel like as S9, you're kind of okay with how the game is as long as you don't bleed too much with this Baron. You just have to kind of survive the next 2 minutes, and with Zarya and you have to feel Aurelion Sol, your wave clear is probably good enough to not have to worry too much about Baron.
Yeah, I think you should be able to withstand the Baron. You can afford to give up the Dragon as well. I mean, look at the damage. Calumnia, he was certainly dealing a lot of damage, but it took him a very long time to deal with the front line. And unfortunately, his front line kind of just evaporates. The Maokai and the Renekton are both very, very squishy, which again makes us kind of question, like, what is the Renekton actually picked for? Because it just feels like it hasn't really done a whole lot in this game. I think if you're the side of S9, honestly, probably just give up this drag. You could fight it. And actually, maybe they do. I mean, they have the Sky's Descent on the Aurelion Sol. So do they want to fight it? Maybe. It's not like they really need more time to scale.
You have to be real careful of Tide now. He does have that Dead Man's Plate, which is quite nice on these sort of immobile mages, as it adds so much movement speed. You just never auto-attack, and you always have that constant 100 stack Dead Man's Plate. As we saw him sort of just run towards Perez and force flash out of Zarya. So another huge summoner down as Dragon will spawn. You have to think most likely will go to Hellpigs.
They do have all the control. I'd be really curious to see if S9 want to contest. I think probably not. Just let them kind of waste some of their Baron if they go towards the Dragon. Try and just wait for the next opportunity to fight on a more even footing. And while Hellpigs, they've gained a little bit of gold off the Baron. Ooh.
Yeah, YJY going to get caught here. Does just get taken out, but again, they will just go to the Dragon, and you already suspected they would be doing that anyway. Although now trying to pressure the side lanes, maybe going to the Dragon later as the Baron does run out. Get the most efficiency out of this Baron buff.
I think they should still be able to clear. I don't think it'll be any inhibs going down, unless they can force some sort of engage.
Yeah, Hongtu making work now on this, but as the Black Hole gets put down, you have to be very careful not to get caught up in that and altered by the Aurelion Sol. YJY will be back now.
I think this tower will actually fall, and I really like how Hellpigs are just delaying the Dragon. They know they don't really need to pick it up. They can just continue to siege. And once the ASOL's E here falls, they might be able to pressure this mid inhib. It is back to being a 5v5 though.
Yeah, Rally on the side there doing a bit of damage to Taco as we see 4 members head towards him. Calumnia will now back off. Inhib is going to go down there, so Nature's Graft's committed. We see a fight break out. We do see Tide get caught up there. Can Rally take him out? No, he cannot. Kira's on the side, gets Lee Sin kicked into the team, and it's now a 2-for-0. YJY will go down, making it 3. Can Fia and Calumnia peel this? It does not look like, and I think the game will just end here.
Most likely it will, and while Calumnia, he did what he could. Feels like the rest of his team is just a little too behind, and also I think kind of felt himself a little bit behind when he gave up that mid tower early in the game. Overall, I mean, very weird drafts that we saw coming out of these teams. Does end up going the way of Hellpigs after only 28 minutes. And yeah, I really like how Tide played this game on the Vega as well. I mean, went for the tanky stats, which a lot of times it's like isn't really necessary, but I think knowing that if he doesn't die, can continue to just put out those cages over and over, just makes it so easy for the rest of the team to fight. And I think YJY, a little exposed on the Thresh, right? You weren't really expecting great things, because again, he is like a role-swapped ADC to support. Looked, I want to say, average on the Rakan yesterday. It was mainly the Keres show on the Zarya. And I think even this game, Keres kind of, he didn't have like the star performance that he did yesterday, but you kind of saw makings of it, right? I think if the game had gone a bit more in their favor, probably would have had more to do, but really just questionable across the board. Like, why wouldn't you take the Rakan earlier? Why do you value the Renekton so highly? It just, yeah, I don't know, really weird choices from the side of S9.
Yeah, the Renekton felt useless the entire game, and I mean, part of it is also that Relia does tend to just get caught out by himself and dove top so often, and I mean, we don't watch the top lane the entire game, but you have to feel like there's something he can be doing there to avoid it, or at least realizing when he is that